There's a secret hidden in Hades 2 that most players never discover. Not a secret boss or hidden ending. Something more fundamental. Every god offering their blessing to Melinoe isn't just giving her power. They're giving her their entire mythology, compressed into mechanics that make sense only when you understand who these beings truly are. Zeus's lightning doesn't just deal damage, it teaches you how storms work. Hera's chains don't just link enemies, they reveal what the goddess of marriage actually means when she binds things together. And here's the twist: some players suspect, but few can prove. In Greek mythology, Melinoe's actual father might not be Hades at all. According to ancient texts, it could be Zeus, who disguised himself as Hades to deceive Persephone. The game acknowledges this ambiguity in subtle ways, though it treats Hades as her father for the story's purposes. Based on character dialogue and contextual clues, we can infer that this mythological complexity adds weight to every interaction between Melinoe and her extended Olympian family. Tonight, we are meeting every divine being who aids the princess of the underworld. But we're not just cataloging boons, we're uncovering why these gods work the way they do, mechanically and mythologically. We're discovering the brilliant design hidden beneath spectacular combat. Welcome back, sleepers. Let's explore the gods of Hades 2, and by journey's end, you'll never see this game the same way again. Part 1. The Lightning Throne. Zeus and Hera. Begin with power. Begin with the king. Zeus appears early in your journey, his white lightning bolt sigil marking chambers where storm-forged blessings wait. When you meet him, he speaks with booming confidence, the easy authority of someone who toppled titans before. His voice carries no doubt because doubt is for mortals, and Zeus hasn't been mortal for a very, very long time. His signature status curse is Blitz, and understanding Blitz means understanding storms themselves. When you strike an enemy with Zeus-enhanced attacks, you're not just hitting them with lightning. You're building electrical charge within their body. Each hit adds to this accumulation. Maybe 5 damage here, 10 there, depending on your boon strength. The enemy doesn't know it's happening. They just keep fighting while lightning pools inside them like water behind a dam. Then the threshold breaks. Maybe 60 damage accumulated, maybe 80. Suddenly, that stored energy detonates, a burst of electricity that can chain to nearby enemies. It's the storm teaching you patience. Power doesn't announce itself immediately. It builds, quiet and inevitable, until the sky cannot contain it. Zeus's core boons enhance your basic attacks with this accumulation. Heaven Strike adds lightning to your attack. Storm Flourish does the same for your special. Electric Blast transforms your cast into a continuous lightning beam. What makes Zeus brilliant is how his boons scale, with weapon speed. The Sister Blade's rapid strikes? They stack blitz charges incredibly fast. The Witch's Staff's basic combo? It builds toward detonation with every hit. Zeus rewards aggression, rewards staying close and trusting that your accumulated power will protect you through sheer, overwhelming voltage. But here's where Zeus becomes truly dangerous. His secondary boons multiply that lightning. Static Shock causes blitz detonations to chain to additional enemies. Double Strike gives your attacks a chance to hit twice, doubling blitz accumulation. Splitting Bolt makes your lightning fork, hitting 2 targets simultaneously. Each boon understands that lightning doesn't just strike once. It spreads. It finds every path, every connection, every weakness in an enemy formation and exploits it without mercy. His legendary boon, Shocking Loss, might be the most powerful single effect in the game. When enemies drop below 30% health while afflicted by Blitz, they don't just take heavy damage. They die instantly. No warning, no final attack. They simply cease to exist in a crackle of electricity. It's Zeus reminding everyone that he ended Kronos' rule once before, and he's willing to do it again. Now enter Hera, and watch how marriage changes everything. The Queen of the Gods appears only after you reach the surface, only after proving yourself worthy of Olympus's full attention. Her visual design is striking. Peacock feathers, poised elegance with an edge of danger, eyes carrying both devotion and the cynicism of someone who's watched her husband's countless affairs for millennia. When she speaks to Melinoe, you hear genuine care wrapped in exhaustion. Her signature curse is Hitch, and it's one of the most innovative mechanics in modern roguelikes. When you apply Hitch to an enemy, you're not marking them for extra damage. You're connecting them. A hitched enemy takes 30% of any damage you deal to other hitched foes. Hit one enemy for 100 damage, and every other hitched enemy takes 30. The genius is geometric scaling. Hitch 3 enemies, and your damage multiplies by 1.6. Hitch 5, and you're approaching double effectiveness. Hitch an entire encounter, and you can focus fire one target while watching the room's health bars melt in perfect synchrony. This is Hera teaching you what marriage actually means. Not romance. Connection. When one suffers, others feel it. When you strike one bound enemy, the binding itself becomes the weapon. Her core boons apply Hitch to your attacks. Sworn Strike imbues your attack with the curse. Bound Flourish does the same for your special. These boons also increase your base damage significantly because Hera expects excellence. But her true brilliance emerges in her non-core offerings. Born Gain might be the single most build-defining boon in Hades 2. When your magic bar completely depletes, instead of being empty, it fully restores. The cost is that a small portion becomes primed, temporarily unusable until you reach the next area. This effectively gives you infinite magic within any single encounter. For Omega-heavy builds, this is transformative. For cast-focused strategies, it's liberating. Hera is telling you that queens don't ration power. They use it decisively, without hesitation. Engagement Ring extends your cast duration and makes it damage all spawning enemies, not just those already present. Keen Intuition increases Omega damage when your magic is full. Dying Wish makes slain hitched enemies damage all other hitched foes, turning every death into a cascade. The relationship between Zeus and Hera extends into their duo boons naturally. King's Ransom requires sacrificing all Hera boons, but massively empowers your Zeus boons in return, a mechanical representation of their marriage. Queen's Ransom does the opposite. Their duo with Apollo, Sun Worshipper, resurrects the first enemy you kill each encounter to fight for you at 75% power. Even death serves the queen when she wills it. Together, Zeus and Hera represent Olympus's apex. Lightning and chains, storm and binding, individual devastation and crowd control perfected. When you wield both, you're not just powerful. You're wielding the authority of Olympus itself, compressed into blessing form. Here's what the game doesn't explicitly tell you, but the mechanics strongly suggest. Zeus and Hera's combined effectiveness hints at something deeper about Olympian politics. Their boons synergize better than almost any other duo because despite their complicated relationship, they've ruled together for eons. They understand each other's power intimately. When the game makes their mechanical synergy so strong, it's teaching you that divine partnerships, however troubled, can still be devastatingly effective. Part 2. Hearth and Hammer, Hestia and Hephaestus. Now we turn to fire, but not the fire you expect. Hestia is the forgotten Olympian in classical myth, the eldest sibling who gave up her throne so Dionysus could ascend. Associated with the hearth, with domestic life, with the quiet center where families gather. She's not flashy. Her myths are few. She simply exists, the eternal flame that must never go out. Supergiant Games looked at this gentle goddess and asked a dangerous question. What if the Hearthfire went to war? The answer is Scorch, her signature curse, and it's devastatingly patient. When you strike enemies with Hestia-empowered attacks, you set them ablaze with fire that doesn't explode and fade. It burns, it lingers, and crucially, it stacks. Apply Scorch once, the enemy takes damage every second. Apply it 10 times with a fast weapon, they take 10 times that damage every second. Apply it 20 times, and you're watching health bars melt like wax. This is the Hearthfire teaching patience. You don't need overwhelming force, you just need the flame to keep burning until nothing remains but ash. Her core boons: apply Scorch to your abilities. Flame Strike makes your attack leave enemies burning. Flame Flourish does the same for your special. Smoldering, perhaps her most elegant boon, causes your cast circle to continuously apply Scorch to any enemy standing within it. Drop a cast. Watch enemies stumble into its radius, witness damage over time numbers proliferate. Once caught in Hearthfire's warmth, you don't leave until you're consumed. Where Hestia truly shines is synergy with fast-hitting weapons. The Sister Blades are perfect because each rapid strike adds another Scorch stack. The Umbral Flames, with their sweeping attacks, can apply Scorch to entire groups simultaneously. Build around Scorch early, and by encounter's end you're not fighting enemies. You're watching them cook. Her supporting boons enhance Scorch's power. Pyrotechnique, her most essential non-core boon, causes Scorch damage to ramp up the longer it's active on an enemy. First second, normal damage. 3 seconds, increased damage. 5 seconds in, devastating amounts. Glowing Coal increases cast range and Scorch application. Controlled Burn grants projectile resistance while channeling Omega attacks, because the Hearthfire protects as well as punishes. Hestia's personality is wonderfully warm despite her flames. She speaks with a Yorkshire accent, calls Demeter Nan, treats Melinoe with maternal affection. There's no grandstanding, no divine posturing. She's the eldest Olympian and knows exactly who she is. Her confidence is quiet. Her flames are not. But here's the reveal. When you deny Hestia's boons, she very gently reminds you that she fought in the first Titanomachy, that she once wielded the adamant rail, the gun from the first game, with such skill that even Achilles hopes it never returns to mortal hands. The kindly grandmother voice conceals a warrior goddess. Her fire doesn't discriminate between enemies and anyone foolish enough to underestimate her. Now we turn to Hephaestus, and the contrast is immediate. Where Hestia is gentle warmth, Hephaestus is industrial power. The forge doesn't cook, it reshapes, breaks down, rebuilds. His signature mechanic is the blast, explosive pulses that trigger on cooldowns. Many Hephaestus boons add these explosions to your attacks. You might strike an enemy normally, but every few seconds that attack triggers an additional detonation. The genius is passive power. Blasts don't require special input. You fight normally, and boom, additional damage procs. The more you upgrade these blasts with palms of power, the harder they hit, until those periodic ding sounds mark group obliteration. His core boons add blasts to your abilities. Volcanic Strike makes your attack periodically explode. Volcanic Flourish does the same for your special. The damage starts modest, but scales incredibly well with investment. Grab Volcanic Strike at common rarity in the first area, and by the final boss, it's dealing 200 plus damage per proc, on top of your normal attack damage. Where Hephaestus becomes essential is his defensive boons. Trusty Shield might be the single most important sustain boon in the game. It grants armor, reducing incoming damage significantly. Stack multiple armor-granting boons from Hephaestus, and enemy hits that should devastate you barely scratch your health. Volcanic Brace grants armor after using your cast. Smelt Shock grants armor after your hit. Hephaestus understands his niece is fighting an army, and the best defense is surviving long enough to unleash it. His secondary boons create cascading synergies. Chain Reaction causes blasts to trigger each other in sequence, creating explosive chains. Seismic Servo applies Froth, Poseidon's curse, whenever your blasts hit. Furnace Blast increases blast radius the longer they're active. Every boon reinforces craftsmanship, taking raw materials and forging something greater than their parts. His personality carries melancholy. The Forge God has always been portrayed as the outsider Olympian, thrown from Olympus for physical imperfection. His mother Hera essentially prefers Ares over him, a wound that hasn't healed despite millennia. Yet he offers aid without hesitation because it's right, because craft demands excellence regardless of personal pain. Together, Hestia and Hephaestus represent fire's duality. One burns steady and patient, the other explodes with industrial fury. Their duo boon, Funeral Pyre, causes Omega attacks to repeatedly apply Scorch, merging patient flame with the Forge's might. Here's what many players miss. Hestia and Hephaestus's mechanical design teaches you that fire in Greek mythology wasn't just destruction. It was civilization. The hearth preserved humanity through ice ages. The forge built bronze armor and iron tools that elevated society from Stone Age to empire. When you fight with their blessings, you're not wielding chaos. You're wielding thousands of years of controlled combustion, the flames that made humanity possible. Part 3. Dawn and Hunt. Apollo and Artemis. Light and darkness. Sun and moon. The divine twins who approach the same goal. Perfect accuracy. From opposite directions. Apollo is new to the Hades series, and his arrival is appropriately radiant. He's the god of light, often called the sun god, though technically Helios holds that domain in classical myth. Supergiant plays with this duality. Apollo is light itself, purification and prophecy, music and healing, plague and punishment. He's Artemis's twin brother, though in personality they couldn't be more different. Where she is focused and deliberate, he is radiant and performative. And where she strikes to kill cleanly, he strikes to blind and disorient before the killing blow falls. Apollo's signature status curse is Daze, and it's tactically brilliant. When you daze an enemy, you don't freeze them or weaken them. You make them miss. A dazed enemy has a chance to completely whiff their attacks, swinging at where you were rather than where you are. The percentage varies by boon strength, but even at common rarity it's significant. Daze doesn't stop enemies from attacking, it makes them waste their attacks. They telegraph, lock into animation, become vulnerable, while you simply don't get hit. His core boons apply Daze. Solar Ring is his cast boon, creating a longer-lasting binding circle that dazes any enemy standing within. Nova Strike enhances your attack with light that dazes on hit. Blinding Sprint causes your sprint to daze enemies you pass near, turning evasion into offense. But Apollo's true power emerges in his non-core boons. Perfect Image gives you a chance to fire your attack twice with each press, doubling daze application and damage. Wide Grin increases your area of effect size. Light Smite is perhaps his most satisfying boon. After you take damage, your next attack massively increases in power and automatically dazes every enemy it hits. It's Apollo proving that pain is temporary, but vengeance is certain, and that certainty is bright enough to blind. Apollo's personality is bright to the point of being overwhelming. He's verbose, complimentary, occasionally flirtatious in that way gods sometimes are when consequences don't apply to them. He clearly cares about Melinoe and wants Kronos defeated, but there's also a sense he's enjoying the drama. He's the god of theater, after all, and this is quite the production. The relationship between Apollo and Artemis is quietly beautiful. They're twins, both master archers, both connected to celestial bodies. But where Apollo is the rising sun, Artemis is moon and stars. Where he announces himself, she appears without warning. Artemis functions differently from other gods in Hades' Tutu. She doesn't have her own boon rooms you choose to enter. Instead, she interrupts encounters, appearing mid-fight to assist you directly. When she arrives, an indicator flashes. The hunt is on. Suddenly, arrows strike your enemies from impossible angles, and after you clear the room, Artemis herself appears to offer her blessing. Her boons focus entirely on critical hits, devastating blows that deal 300% damage or more. Deadly aim increases your critical chance. Enhancement boosts critical damage even higher. Support fire causes Artemis to literally shoot enemies you're attacking, her arrows striking from off-screen with perfect precision. It's the goddess of the hunt doing what she does best, picking off prey with absolute certainty. Artemis doesn't offer core attack or special boons like other gods. Her power is multiplicative. She makes whatever you're doing more lethal. Building fast attacks with sister blades? Artemis makes some strikers crits. Building heavy specials with Argent Skull? When it crits with Artemis's blessing, things die. She's not prescriptive about playstyle. She just makes every playstyle deadlier. Her personality is reserved, professional. When she appears, she's not chatty like Apollo or theatrical like Hera. She gives options, wishes you well on the hunt, disappears. It's efficient. It's focused. It's exactly what you'd expect from the goddess who once turned a man into a deer and set his own dogs on him for seeing her bathing. Artemis doesn't waste time or words. She appears, kills, offers blessings, vanishes. The hunt is sacred, and the hunt doesn't pause for small talk. Here's the hidden depth. The twins together create fascinating synergies that mirror their mythology. Apollo's daze prevents enemies from effectively attacking. Artemis's crits allow you to kill them during that window of blindness. Apollo's area of effect boons let you handle crowds. Artemis's pinpoint accuracy lets you eliminate priority targets. They're two sides of the same coin. Apollo controls through light, Artemis kills through precision, and together they embody every archer's dream. Perfect accuracy combined with battlefield dominance. In Greek mythology, Apollo and Artemis defended their mother Leto against threats, shooting down anyone who challenged her. They slew Niobe's children when she boasted of being more blessed than Leto. They're protective, lethal, and perfectly synchronized. In Hades 2, that legacy continues. When Apollo blinds your enemies and Artemis crits them while they stumble, you're not just using game mechanics. You're wielding the fury of two Olympians who have always fought as one. Part 4. Love and Strife. Aphrodite and Ares. Beauty and brutality. Seduction and slaughter. In Aphrodite and Ares, we find perhaps the most infamous couple in Greek mythology. And Hades 2 handles their complicated relationship with surprising nuance. Aphrodite returns from Hades with overwhelming power wrapped in gentle words. Her visual design is stunning, beauty that feels almost dangerous to look at directly, a presence that demands attention without demanding anything. When she speaks to Melinoe, there's genuine affection, the kind you might expect from a distant aunt who happens to wield love as a weapon. Her signature status curse is weak, and mechanically it does exactly what the name suggests. Afflicted enemies deal 30% reduced damage. That's enormous. the difference between surviving with a sliver of health and finishing comfortably. Weak doesn't kill faster. It keeps you alive longer, which in a roguelike is arguably more valuable. Aphrodite teaches you that survival isn't always about killing quicker. Sometimes it's about making enemies kill you slower. Her core boons apply weak and provide substantial damage increases. Rapture Ring, her cast boon, creates a binding circle that continuously applies weak to everyone trapped within. Flutter Strike and Flutter Flourish enhance your attack and special respectively, and they have the highest base damage multipliers of any god in the game. Aphrodite wants you to hit hard, really hard. The weak effect is almost a bonus on top of raw numerical power. Her non-core boons support overwhelming force protected by weakness. Glamour Gain restores magic when you damage weak enemies, creating a feedback loop. Healthy Rebound heals you when your health is high, rewarding you for staying alive through weak's defensive benefits. Every boon says the same thing. Beauty is deadly, and that which is weakened falls before it. Aphrodite's legendary boon, Nervous Wreck, is delightfully chaotic. It gives a chance to apply every status curse in your build to enemies. Every. 1. Got Weak from Aphrodite, Scorch from Hestia, and Blitz from Zeus? Congratulations, you just applied all three with one hit. When it triggers, enemies light up with so many status effects they look like Christmas trees. It's Aphrodite reminding everyone that love may be gentle, but when directed, it's the most destructive force in existence. Now we turn to Ares, and the contrast is stark. Where Aphrodite is curves and gentle words, Ares is angles and direct confrontation. Ares' combat style revolves around wounds, his new signature mechanic. Unlike Doom from the first game, wounds are immediate. They add 50 power to the strike that inflicts them, and can be reapplied every 3 seconds to the same enemy. This creates a rhythm. Hit enemy A to wound them, switch to enemy B to wound them. By the time you're hitting enemy C, enemy A can be wounded again. His core boons apply wounds. Flaying Strike makes your attack inflict wounds. Flaying Flourish does the same for your special. The 3-second cooldown means you can't spam apply wounds, but that's intentional. Ares wants tactical thinking. Spread wounds across multiple targets rather than focusing one. His non-core boons enhance aggression. Murderous Abandon increases movement speed after kills, turning slaying into momentum. Engulfing Vortex creates damaging blade rifts after Omega attacks. Grisly Gain restores magic when you apply wounds. Every boon tells you to press the attack, never give breathing room, be the avatar of war they fear. But here's the truth players discover. Ares feels undertuned compared to other gods. His wounds mechanic is strong, but not as versatile as other curses. His non-core boons are good, but not build-defining like Hera's Born Gain or Hephaestus' trusty shield. He occupies a middle ground, where he's definitely viable but rarely optimal. It's unfortunate because conceptually he's perfect. The god of war should be all offense all the time. In practice, though, Hades II-'s difficulty sometimes demands more defense than Ares wants to provide. That said, his duo boons can save an Ares build. Grievous Blow, which pairs with his wounds mechanic, gives a chance for everything to deal double damage. Mutual Destruction causes you to deal increased damage based on your maximum health, rewarding HP stacking builds. These boons transform Ares from okay to devastating, but they require setup and specific combinations. His personality is focused, military, surprisingly respectful. Ares in myth is often portrayed as the brutal god, the one even other Olympians find distasteful. Here, he treats Melinoe as a fellow warrior, someone who understands that sometimes violence is the answer. There's no posturing. He offers boons because war recognizes a soldier when it sees one. The relationship between Aphrodite and Ares manifests in their duo boons and occasional dialogue. They don't openly acknowledge their affair, this is Supergiant Games staying tasteful, but there are hints, shared glances in word form. Their duo boon, Heartrend, combines weak and wounds. Weak enemies take massively increased damage from wounds. It's the perfect combination of their domains. Aphrodite weakens the enemy's offense, Ares obliterates them before they recover. Love and war, working in violent harmony. Here's the hidden layer. Based on how their mechanics interact and their dialogue patterns, we can infer that Aphrodite and Ares' relationship in Hades 2 is treated with more dignity than classical myth usually affords them. They're not the joke of Olympus here. They're professionals who happen to work well together, and their combined power, weak reducing enemy damage while wounds amplifies yours, creates one of the safest aggressive strategies in the game. Together, they represent two philosophies. Aphrodite says, weaken them until they can't hurt you, then kill them at leisure with overwhelming power. Ares says, hurt them so badly and so quickly that their ability to hurt you becomes irrelevant. Both work, both are valid, and both remind Kronos that love and war have toppled more than one titan. Part 5. Tides and Harvest. Poseidon and Demeter. The sea and the earth. Waves and fields, forces so vast they shaped civilization itself. Poseidon returns from the first game with refined knockback mechanics. When you take his boons, you're committing to positional play. His attacks don't just damage enemies, they move them, often violently, often directly into walls or other hazards. Environmental damage in Hades 2 is significant. Slam an enemy into a wall with Poseidon-enhanced attacks, and they take bonus impact damage. Knock multiple enemies into each other, and you're creating traffic jams of pain. His core boons include Flood Strike, which causes your attack to knock enemies away. Breaker Sprint makes your sprint knock enemies aside. Tidal Dash returns to make your dash a wave of force that sends enemies flying. These boons work with every weapon. Sister Blade's rapid attacks become pushing strikes. Moonstone Axe's heavy hits become positional reset buttons. His secondary boon, Slippery Slope, adds Froth as a status curse to knockback effects. Froth causes enemies to take increased damage over time, stacking with each application. It's the sea teaching erosion. One wave doesn't break the cliff, but 1,000 waves crumble stone to sand. Where Poseidon shines is crowd control. In tight corridors or platforms, his knockback can completely dictate engagement terms. Dangerous enemies charging you? Knock them back to buy time. Melee attackers swarming? Send them flying in different directions and pick them off individually. Poseidon doesn't always kill fastest, but he controls the battlefield like no other god. His personality is enthusiastic without being overbearing. He's clearly enjoying helping Melinoe, sees the whole thing as a grand adventure. There's a slightly competitive edge with Zeus, his brother, that manifests in occasional comments. He also genuinely seems to like his great niece and wants to see her succeed. Demeter returns with refined chill and freeze mechanics. She's Persephone's mother, which makes her Melinoe's grandmother, and that familial connection adds weight. This isn't a distant Olympian offering generic aid. This is family, specifically the family member who lost her daughter to Hades once and will not tolerate losing her granddaughter to Kronos. Her signature status curse is Chill, which slows enemies. Stack enough Chill and they freeze solid, completely immobilized. Frozen enemies can't attack, can't move, and take increased damage from all sources. It's Winter Frost teaching inevitability. Everything slows eventually, everything stops, and in that stopping, everything becomes vulnerable. Her core boons apply Chill. Frost Strike makes your attack slow enemies. Gustcast creates damaging cyclones that apply chill in an area. Nourishing Grasp restores health based on chill stacks, turning offense into sustain. Her non-core boons create control synergies. Arctic Gale increases chill duration. Frigid Rush applies chill when you sprint through enemies. Cold Comfort heals you when you collect Mystery Seeds, which Demeter scatters throughout runs as bonus collectibles. Demeter's legendary boon, Ravenous Will, causes frozen enemies to shatter when slain, dealing damage to all nearby foes. It's immensely satisfying. Freeze a tough enemy, kill them, watch shatter damage chain to everything around them, often freezing those enemies too, creating cascades. It's winter reminding everyone that when the thaw comes, it brings floods that drown the unprepared. Her personality is warm despite icy powers. She calls Malinoe affectionately, offers advice both tactical and personal, clearly views this conflict through the lens of protecting family. There's steel beneath the warmth, though. This is the goddess who condemned the world to eternal winter when Persephone was taken. She's patient, but her patience has limits, and Kronos has vastly exceeded them. Together, Poseidon and Demeter create battlefield control builds that are both safe and effective. Poseidon keeps enemies at distance through knockback. Demeter slows or freezes anything that gets close. Combine them properly, and you're fighting from the center of a vortex where nothing can reach you and everything dies trying. Their duo boon, Tropical Cyclone, creates a cyclone when you knock enemies away, combining positional control with area denial. Here's what the design reveals. When you wield tides and harvest in Hades 2, you're channeling forces that fed civilizations and toppled empires. Forces that care nothing for titans or time because the sea always returns to shore and the earth always brings forth new growth. Kronos may think he controls time, but time means nothing to forces that operate on geological and seasonal scales. The wave doesn't hurry. The harvest doesn't rush. They simply come, inevitable as sunrise, and nothing stands against them forever. Part 6. Wisdom's Shield. Athena. In the chaos of combat, one goddess offers something different from raw power. Athena, goddess of wisdom and strategic warfare, returns with her signature deflect mechanic. Refined but recognizable. Athena appears differently from most Olympians. Similar to Artemis, she interrupts combat encounters on Mount Olympus, descending from the sky with spear and shield to assist directly. When she appears, her presence is martial and immediate. There's no flowery introduction. She enters, fights alongside you, and after enemies fall, offers her blessings. It's efficient, tactical, exactly what you'd expect from the goddess of strategic warfare. Her signature effect is Deflect, one of the most mechanically interesting defensive options in the game. When you have Deflect active on an ability, any projectiles that hit you during that ability's animation bounce back toward enemies. It's not damage negation, it's redirection. The enemy arrow meant for your heart? Flying back at them now. The magical bolt? Returned to sender. Athena isn't making you invincible. She's making you smart. Block with knowledge. Reflect with wisdom. Turn enemy aggression into their downfall. Her core boons add deflect to your basic abilities. Divine Strike adds deflect to your attack, meaning every time you swing, you're briefly invulnerable to projectiles. Divine Flourish does the same for your special. Her supporting boons enhance defense. Greater Consecration increases health restored from all healing sources, a universal benefit. Brilliant Riposte causes enemies damaged by deflect to be dazed, combining Athena's redirection with Apollo's blinding, two siblings of wisdom working in tandem. Athena's role in Hades 2 is fascinating because she's explicitly defending Mount Olympus itself. While other gods strategize or offer boons from their domains, Athena is on the front lines, holding the gates against Kronos' forces. When she appears in your run, she's taking time away from that defense to help you. Her dialogue reflects this. Encouraging but brief, supportive but aware that every moment with you is a moment she's not actively defending the mountain. Her personality is measured and professional. There's affection. She's helping family. But it's wrapped in strategic thinking. She analyzes your approach, comments on your progress, genuinely treats your assault on Kronos as a military campaign that can be won through planning and execution. The limitation is that Athena doesn't offer duo boons with other gods in Hades 2. She also doesn't have an infusion boon or a legendary. Her boon pool is smaller than most Olympians, likely due to her unique appearance mechanics and her lore role as Olympus's defender. She's spread too thin, but what she does offer is invaluable for specific playstyles, particularly Omega-focused builds where long channeling times leave you vulnerable to projectiles. The philosophy behind Athena is clear. Wisdom isn't about having more tools. It's about using the right tool perfectly. You don't need 50 boons from her. You need the one boon that turns enemy attacks into your own offense at the right moment. That's strategic thinking. That's warfare as chess rather than brawl. When you fight with Athena's blessing, you're not just playing defensively. You're playing intelligently. Every deflected arrow is a lesson taught. Every reflected spell is wisdom applied. And when enemies die to their own attacks, when you emerge from a storm of projectiles unscathed because wisdom shields better than stone, you understand what it means to have Athena on your side. And Part 7, Revelry and Madness. Dionysus. In the midst of war, in the shadow of the Titan of Time himself, one god refuses to let gravity dampen his spirits. Dionysus, god of wine, madness, ecstasy, and theater, returns in Hades 2 with even less clothing than before, and absolutely zero concern about the impending apocalypse. Or, more accurately, he's deeply concerned but dealing with it through the time-tested method of partying until either you win or the world ends. Dionysus appears in Mount Olympus in dedicated encounter rooms, meaning you must specifically seek him out. When you find him, he's lounging, wine glass in hand, surrounded by revelers. He initially mistakes Melinoe for a post-transition Zagreus, which is a wonderfully awkward moment that gets cleared up quickly. His signature status curse is Hangover, a damage over time effect that stacks with each application. Think of it like Hestia's Scorch, but with a different flavor. Instead of burning, enemies are poisoned by divine wine. Each stack of Hangover deals damage every half second. Hit an enemy 10 times with Hangover applying attacks, and they're taking 10 stacks of damage repeatedly. It's death by excess. His core boons apply Hangover. Trippy Shot transforms your cast into a poisoning area that continuously applies Hangover to anyone standing within. It's beautifully simple. Drop cast, watch enemies stumble into it, watch their health drain as stacks accumulate. Where Dionysus becomes interesting is his non-hangover boons, which are all about sustain and bonus effects. Strong drink causes festive fog to appear in encounters, essentially magical glowing grapes that grant you a temporary power boost when collected. They reappear every 7 to 10 seconds, and if you build around them, you can maintain near-permanent power increases. After Party is a sustain boon that restores health after each encounter based on damage taken during that encounter. The more you got hurt, the more you heal. It's counterintuitive but thematically perfect. Dionysus is the god of excess and recovery, the hangover followed by the hair of the dog. Wine-soaked wit grants you a chance to completely avoid damage when your magic is above a certain threshold. It's random, which makes it unreliable, but when it procs at crucial moments, you feel blessed by chaotic fortune itself. That's Dionysus. Not trustworthy, not consistent, but occasionally miraculous when you need it most. His personality is hedonistic, but not thoughtless. He understands the gravity of the situation. He knows Kronos threatens everything. He just refuses to let that threat rob him of joy in the present. There's an argument that he's the wisest of all gods in this regard. If time itself might end, why not enjoy what time you have? His limitation is similar to other supplementary gods. He doesn't dominate the god pool meta. Hangover is good, but not as immediately impactful as Zeus's Blitz or Hestia's Scorch. His non-core boons are useful, but not build-defining. You're rarely building entirely around Dionysus. Instead, he's a flavor addition, a secondary god who enhances whatever primary strategy you've chosen. And honestly, that fits him perfectly. Dionysus isn't trying to be the star. He's trying to make sure the party continues, and if that party involves killing titans with poison while slightly drunk, well, he's poured stranger drinks. Here's the hidden wisdom. When you fight with Dionysus's blessings, you're embracing a philosophy that says gif, or undeath, in Melinoe's case, should be lived fully even when death looms. The wine doesn't stop flowing because time is ending. The party doesn't pause because there's work to do. Instead, you work with wine in hand, you fight with poison on your blade, and when you win, you celebrate. And when you lose, you were already drinking, so the loss stings less. Part 8. Divine Messengers. Hermes and Selene. Speed and stillness. The messenger racing between realms and the moon hanging eternal in the night sky. Hermes needs no introduction to Hades' veterans. The fastest god, the messenger of Olympus, the psychopomp who guides souls, returns with his signature cheerful energy. But unlike the first game, he doesn't just appear randomly. You unlock Hermes by acquiring boons from various other gods first. They mention him in dialogue, note how busy he is coordinating the war effort, and eventually he finds time to meet with Melinoe personally. His boons focus entirely on making you faster, more mobile, more efficient. Hermes doesn't care about which curse you apply or how much damage your attack deals. He cares about whether you can dodge, whether you move between encounters quickly, whether your abilities come off cooldown faster. In a roguelike where speed often determines success, these utilities are invaluable. His core offerings include greater sprint, which increases base movement speed. Nimble Limbs speeds up your attack and special animations. Speedy Riser reduces the magic cost of your sprint, meaning you can dash around encounters more freely. His secondary boons offer fascinating utility. Divine Dues increases gold you find, because Hermes is also the god of merchants and commerce. Sly Evasion increases your dodge chance, the percentage likelihood of completely avoiding damage. It's small, maybe 6 to 10% at common rarity, but in a long run, that difference means several free damage negations. Greatest Haste dramatically increases your ability to use Omega attacks by refunding magic. His personality remains delightful. He's overworked, racing between Olympus and various war fronts, coordinating supply lines and information networks, yet he still finds time to encourage Melinoe with genuine warmth. His limitation is that he doesn't offer duo boons or legendary boons or infusions. Hermes is pure utility. You take his boons to enable other strategies, not as the strategy itself. But that utility is so universally applicable that most strong builds include at least 1 or 2 Hermes boons. Now we turn to Selene, and the contrast is striking. Where Hermes is constant motion, Selene is patient orbit. The moon incarnate, titaness of the moon. She descends from the night sky to offer Melinoe not traditional boons, but hexes. Powerful, magic-consuming abilities that function like the calls from the first game, but with more variety and flexibility. Selene's mechanic is unique. When you encounter her, she offers 3 hex options. You choose one. For the rest of that run, using magic builds toward triggering that hex. Once you've spent enough magic, the hex activates, unleashing a devastating effect. Then the cycle repeats. The hexes vary wildly in effect. Sever Hex creates a massive slash attack that hits everything in an arc. Moonlight Ray fires a piercing beam that damages all enemies in a line. Lamination transforms you into invulnerable moonlight for several seconds, letting you reposition or survive otherwise lethal attacks. What makes Selene fascinating is her Path of Stars, a skill tree unique to each hex. As you encounter Selene multiple times in a run, she offers nodes on this tree that modify and enhance your chosen hex. Maybe your Sever Hex now slows all hit enemies. Maybe your Moonlight Ray bounces between targets. These modifications are run-specific and allow you to customize your hex to fit your build. Selene also offers God-sent hexes, essentially duo boons for hexes. If you have certain boons from other gods, Selene might offer a hex that combines her lunar power with theirs. Scorching Beam merges her Moonlight Ray with Hestia's fire, creating a scorch-applying laser. Her personality is caring in an almost maternal way. She calls Melinoe Little Star, and Dear One speaks with gentle encouragement, clearly views herself as something of a guardian. There's ancient sadness in her voice, though, the weight of having watched eons pass from the night sky, witnessing rises and falls without being able to meaningfully intervene. Together, Hermes and Selene represent the infrastructure of your combat capabilities. Hermes makes you fast enough to execute strategies. Selene gives you the nuclear option for when strategies fail. One is the foundation, the other is the ceiling. Based on their mechanics and roles, we can infer something interesting. Hermes and Selene might be opposites in more than just speed versus stillness. Hermes operates on linear time. He's always moving forward, always rushing to the next thing. Selene operates on cyclical time, the moon's orbit, the tides, the repeating patterns. Together, they represent 2 ways of experiencing time, which becomes thematically important when fighting against Kronos, who seeks to control all time. Part 9. Primordial Forces. Chaos and Charon before the gods. Before the Titans. Before time itself had meaning or form, there was chaos. Chaos returns with a new appearance. Gone is the swirling void creature, replaced by a sharp-suited entity that somehow makes primordial nothingness look fashionable. And alongside them, older even than some Olympians, is Charon, the Stygian boatman, ferryman of the dead, whose groans have echoed across the river Styx since death became something mortals had to cross. Chaos operates differently from every other boon-granting entity. You don't find them through sigils or dedicated rooms. Instead, you find chaos gates, swirling portals that require you to sacrifice health to enter. Pass through, and you're in Chaos's realm, a space outside normal reality where even the UI seems uncertain. The mechanic is simple in concept but complex in execution. When you take a Chaos boon, you receive a debuff first. Maybe your attack damage is reduced by 30%. Maybe you take more damage from enemy hits. This curse lasts for a specific number of encounters or boons collected. Once that number reaches 0, the curse transforms into a blessing that remains for the rest of the run. The blessings are substantial. Increased attack damage by 40 to 80%. Reduced damage taken. More gold from all sources. These aren't minor buffs. They're build-altering improvements. The question Chaos poses is always, are you willing to suffer now for power later? Can you survive the curse long enough to enjoy the blessing? What makes Chaos boons fascinating is the risk-reward calculation. Taking a Chaos boon in the first area means enduring the curse through multiple encounters, but having the blessing for most of your run. Taking a Chaos boon right before a boss means minimal curse exposure, but limited blessing duration. You're gambling on your own skill. Chaos's personality is alien even by God standards. They speak in cryptic phrases, refer to concepts mortals can barely comprehend, seem to view the entire war against Kronos as an interesting development in the great pattern of existence. They're not emotionally invested like the Olympians. They're observing, offering power to see what patterns emerge from its use. Chaos's limitation is access. You can't force Chaos gates to appear. You can't build around Chaos boons because you're not guaranteed to find any. They're bonus power when available, never something to rely on. This makes sense thematically. Chaos is not subject to mortal planning. Now Charon, the ancient ferryman, child of Nyx, older sibling to many chthonic gods. In Hades too, he continues his dual role as ferryman and merchant, offering boons and items for sale in his floating shop. Charon's boons are purchased rather than chosen from random offerings. He appears at wells of Charon scattered throughout your journey, his boat docking at impossible angles, his groaning voice somehow communicating precise pricing information. The boons he sells are typically strong, often from the current god pool, and buying them costs gold, but guarantees you get what you need. His inventory includes more than boons: health restoration, magic restoration, palms of power, various consumables. Charon stocks everything an enterprising princess of the underworld might need. The prices are fair, but not cheap. Charon understands supply and demand, understands that desperation increases value. His personality is enigmatic because he barely communicates. His groans and grunts somehow convey complete information about stock and prices. Melinoe understands him perfectly, suggesting either that she's learned his language or that his groans bypass normal communication to transfer meaning directly. When you enter Chaos's realm and emerge stronger from the trial, when you purchase exactly the boon you need from Charon's well-stocked boat, you're interacting with forces older than the gods you're trying to help. You're being reminded that beneath family drama and titan rebellions and temporal chaos, there are foundational elements of reality that persist. The void remains. The ferry still crosses, and in their persistence, there's strange comfort. No matter how badly the fight goes, Chaos will still offer gambles, and Charon will still sell you the tools to try again. Part 10. House of Hades. Family and Shadow. Not all aid comes from Mount Olympus. Some comes from much closer to home, from the shadows of the underworld itself, from family both immediate and extended. Hades, lord of the underworld, god of the dead, Melinoe's father, is absent through most of your runs. He's imprisoned by Kronos, chained alongside his family, powerless to stop his father from unmaking everything he's built. But in Tartarus, in a hidden chamber, you can find where he's held. And from his chains, Hades offers his boons to his daughter. They're not standard combat boons. They're blessings specifically designed to help Melinoe fight Kronos himself, advantages that only matter in that final confrontation. More damage dealt, less damage taken. Increased resistance to Kronos' specific attack patterns. They're tactical, specific, exactly what you'd expect from a god who has defended his realm for eons and understands warfare from both combative and administrative perspectives. His personality in these interactions is complex. There's pride in Melinoe's skill and determination. There's frustration at his own helplessness. There's love. though Hades has never been particularly demonstrative with affection. His dialogue is economical, each word chosen for maximum efficiency, because even speaking requires effort when you're bound by temporal chains. Hecate, goddess of witchcraft, of crossroads, of magic itself, is Melinoe's mentor and the most consistent presence in the game. She's not imprisoned. She's the one who trained Melinoe, who prepared her for this task, who continues to guide her even as the princess ventures into increasingly dangerous territory. Her personality is stern but caring, the mentor who pushes because she knows her student can handle it. There's deep affection beneath the hard exterior, affection that occasionally breaks through in dialogue after particularly difficult runs or major story beats. Hecate believes in Melinoe not because of blind faith, but because she trained her, because she knows exactly what the princess is capable of. Beyond Hades and Hecate, there are other characters who offer boons and support. Echo, met in the fields of morning, can duplicate rewards or grant echoes of previous boons. Her gifts are unpredictable but potentially powerful. She speaks in repeated phrases, her dialogue fractured and mirrored, a mechanical representation of her mythological nature as the nymph who can only repeat others' words. Medea appears in the city of Ephyra during nighttime curses, offering temporary blessings that empower Melinoe's attacks or grant bonuses for killing enemies in specific ways. Her boons are more volatile than Olympian offerings, fitting for the legendary sorceress who helped Jason obtain the Golden Fleece and then burned everything down when betrayed. Icarus, the legendary flyer who flew too close to the sun, appears in the rift of Thessaly and Mount Olympus during encounters, assisting with his inventions. His boons grant armor, increase power, provide supplies. He's enthusiastic despite his tragic fate, still inventing, still flying in his way. Narcissus, eternally obsessed with his own reflection, appears in Oceanus offering bundles of items and boons. He's not particularly interested in the war or Melinoe's quest. He's interested in himself, and helping her seems to be something he does almost absently while admiring his reflection. The chthonic boons and characters represent something crucial. Melinoe doesn't fight alone. She has her father's blessing even from his prison. She has her mentor's training and guidance. She has allies from across the underworld, from legendary heroes to tragic figures to sorceresses, whose motivations are complex, but whose aid is real. Here's what this teaches us about Hades II's design philosophy. The Olympians may provide flashy power, lightning and fire and moonlight, but the foundation of Melinoe's strength is family and the allies her family has cultivated over eons. When you fight with Hades' blessing against Kronos, when you return to Hecate's crossroads to prepare for another attempt, you're experiencing the power of community. Melinoe is royalty, yes, but she's not isolated on a throne. She's a member of a complex network of relationships, and that network is actively invested in her success. Part 11. Divine Synergy, Duo Boons and Legendary Powers. Understanding individual gods is essential, but true mastery comes from understanding how gods combine, how their powers interact, how specific boon combinations can elevate a decent run into an unstoppable force. Duo boons combine two gods' powers into a single, synergistic effect. To unlock a duo boon, you must have specific boons from both gods involved. The exact requirements vary by duo, and part of strategic depth is knowing which boons unlock which duos and planning your selections accordingly. The power of duo boons is substantial. They don't just add effects together, they create emergent properties that neither god offers alone. Consider Freezer-Burn, the duo between Demeter and Hestia. Freeze already stops enemies. Scorch already burns them. But Freezer-Burn causes frozen enemies to take massively increased scorch damage. Suddenly, freezing isn't just about control, it's about damage amplification so severe that frozen targets melt before they can thaw. Or take thermal dynamics, the Hephaestus and Hestia duo. It causes your blasts to apply scorch. Now the explosive damage you're dealing every few seconds also sets enemies on fire. Hephaestus's blasts synergise with Hestia's patient burning, creating a build where you're both exploding enemies and setting them ablaze. Zeus and Aphrodite have a duo that causes your lightning to inflict weak. Suddenly, Zeus's aggressive offense gains defensive utility. Enemies you're shocking are also hitting you for less damage, combining the storm god's fury with the love goddess's protection. The key to using duo boons effectively is planning. You can't take random boons and hope duos appear. You need to know which gods you're targeting, which of their boons unlock the duos you want, how to navigate the god pool to maximize chances. The game provides tools to help. The Queen Arcana card increases your chance of being offered duo boons from the standard 12% to as high as 24% when fully upgraded. Warden encounters in late areas have increased duo chances. Legendary boons are the ultimate expression of a god's power, boons that represent their absolute best offering. Each god that offers legendaries has specific requirements you must meet, usually requiring you to have multiple boons from that god already. Zeus's legendary Shocking Loss causes instant death when enemies drop below 30% health while afflicted by blitz. No warning, no final attack. Just instant death by lightning. It's Zeus reminding everyone that he ended the Titans once. Aphrodite's legendary Nervous Wreck allows your attacks to apply multiple status curses simultaneously. Got Weak, Scorch, and Daze in your build? Now you can apply all three with one hit. Hestia's legendary Pyro Technique causes scorch damage to ramp up the longer it's active. It transforms her patient flame into an inferno, where enemies that survive the first seconds face exponentially increasing damage. Legendary boons feel special when they appear. The visual indicator is distinct. The description makes clear this is the peak of that god's offering, and the effect itself often enables entire build archetypes that don't work without it. The strategic depth of duo and legendary boons is where Hades 2's roguelike elements shine brightest. Every run is different because your build changes, because the boons you get and the synergies you discover create unique combinations of power. One run, you're a Zeus Hera blitz machine, linking enemies and detonating encounters. Next run, you're a Hestia Demeter Frostfire combo, freezing and burning simultaneously. Here's what many players miss about duo boons specifically. Their existence teaches you something about Greek mythology itself. Zeus and Hera aren't just married in myth, they're married in mechanics. They're boons designed to amplify each other. Hestia and Hephaestus aren't just fire siblings. They're complementary combat strategies that merge into something greater. The gods don't just offer individual blessings, they offer combinations, synergies, emergent gameplay that comes from understanding not just what each god does, but how gods work together. When you're chasing a specific duo, when you're using keepsakes strategically to force god appearances, when you're sacrificing boons you like to keep your god pool clean for the duo you need, you're engaging with Hades 2 at its deepest level. You're not just playing the game. You're mastering its systems, understanding its language, speaking in synergies and build-defining interactions. Closing. The hidden truth we've journeyed through the entire pantheon, from Zeus's lightning throne to Chaos's formless void, from Hestia's patient hearth to Ares's furious blade, from Selene's lunar blessing to Charon's ferry dock. We've met every god, understood every boon, traced mythological roots that inform mechanical design. But here's the secret I promised. At the beginning, the truth hiding in plain sight. Hades 2's gods aren't just gameplay systems. they're a thesis about Greek mythology itself. Every culture throughout history has asked the same question. If gods were real, what would they actually do? How would divine power manifest? Would it be random and capricious? Or would it follow rules, have logic, make sense within its own framework? Supergiant Games answered that question by making divine power feel earned. Zeus's lightning doesn't just hit hard. It teaches you how electrical charge works, how storms build pressure. Hera's chains don't just link enemies, they demonstrate what binding actually means, mechanically and metaphorologically. Apollo doesn't just blind, he shows you what happens when light itself becomes a weapon. And here's the deeper revelation. Some gods are stronger than others, not because of balancing issues, but because of mythological hierarchy. Zeus and Hera dominate the meta because they're king and queen. They should be powerful. Ares feels weaker because, in actual Greek myth, Ares was often portrayed as less effective than he should be, the god of war who kept losing. Dionysus is supplementary because he's the god who arrives after the work is done, for the celebration. The game is teaching you Greek mythology through combat mechanics. Every boon is a lesson. Every god is a character study. Every duo is a relationship made playable. So when you return to Hades 2 after this, when you see Zeus offer his lightning or Hestia offer her flame, you'll understand something most players miss. You're not just choosing power-ups, you're choosing which mythology you want to embody. You're deciding which ancient story you want to tell through your build, which god's philosophy you want to carry into Kronos' throne room. Zeus teaches accumulation and sudden release. Hera teaches that connection can be both strength and vulnerability. Hestia teaches that patience, given time, burns hotter than rage. Poseidon teaches that controlling space matters more than controlling enemies. Demeter teaches that stopping something is often better than destroying it. Athena teaches that the best offense is making enemies defeat themselves. Every god offers more than boons. They offer wisdom, if you're willing to learn their language. And the beautiful secret is that Supergiant Games didn't have to do any of this. They could have made Zeus shoot lightning because lightning is cool. They could have made Hera strong because players like damage. Instead, they crafted a system where every mechanical choice reflects thousands of years of mythology, where playing well means understanding not just the game, but the stories that inspired it. That's the real power in Hades 2, not the lightning or the flames or the binding circles. The power is in making you feel like you understand the gods themselves, like you've touched something ancient and true, like for a moment you're not just playing a roguelike but channeling forces that shaped human civilization. So the next time you take Zeus's boon and watch blitz charges accumulate, remember, you're not just dealing damage, you're learning how storms work. The next time you apply Hestia's scorch and watch it burn patiently, remember, you're experiencing the hearthfire that kept humanity alive through ice ages. The next time Hera links your enemies and they fall together, remember, you're wielding the concept of marriage itself as a weapon. The gods are real in Hades 2, not because they have health bars and voice actors, because they've been translated from myth into mechanics so faithfully that playing the game well means understanding the mythology itself. And that's a kind of magic no amount of lightning can match. If this journey through divinity helped you understand Hades 2 differently, if it changed how you see the boons you choose or the gods you favor, consider subscribing for more deep dives into gaming lore. We explore not just what games are, but what they mean, what they're teaching, what ancient wisdom they've encoded into modern systems. Until next time, may your runs be blessed, your boons be powerful, and your understanding of the gods be deep. Sleep well and dream of lightning and flame, of moonlight and waves, of every divine power now at your command. The gods are waiting, and now you know their language.